This might be the last step. We got to put on a single fire coil and this aftermarket ignition. Ignition module is underneath this side cover. This still has the factory ignition in it, so these are rivets. I'm gonna have to drill those out. These two little studs here, we're just gonna remove those, and then this ignition module will pop out. Since we're not going to reuse this on anything, the easiest thing to do is just to snip the wires. Get this whole thing right out of the way. And then you can fish the wire down through the bottom. Somewhere tucked in your bike, there's going to be this like 3-plug harness. That's what comes out of the factory ignition module. We're not going to use that anymore. You can usually just unplug it and tuck that somewhere and then fish out the rest of the wiring. So there's this like wire loom that's around the harness. It's gonna be kind of tough to get this end to go down through the hole in the cam cover. So what I like to do is just put a piece of heat shrink tubing over it. Sometimes you gotta work these a little bit to get them to pop in and get the right amount of wires sticking up in there, but that one went pretty easy. So this right here is where you would set your initial timing. As you can see, this pivots back and forth. There's a whole process for that. You would set your bike to top dead center, and using the LEDs on here, you would rotate it back and forth and set it based on when the light lights up and shuts off. Since this bike is turboed, we know we're not going to want the timing to be very advanced. So we're actually just going to turn it mechanically back a few degrees, or what eyeball looks like a few degrees, and we're going to set it there, call it good enough. That's also going to give us a more badass rev limiter. Usually I'll just take this wiring and run it right up the front of the bike somewhere. So I'll just try to tuck it in wherever it makes sense and then zip tie it along the way. All right, we got the new coil bolted to the bracket, so that's just gonna sit up in here. And now we'll have to put the ends on the wires and get that hooked up. So the way we're hooking this up, we're only gonna use the red, white, and blue wires. The green on this one is for the tack, which we don't have. And this kind of purple color would be for the vacuum switch, which we're just not gonna use. Also a safe bet to solder those connections so they don't pop out. So the white wire coming from the ignition module is going to go to the positive in the middle. The red is going to be the rear cylinder negative, which for us is the right side of the bike. And the blue is going to be on the left side positive for the front cylinder. And then we're also going to need to hook up this. It's actually a white wire if you look. This white wire from the harness, this is what gives us our 12-volt power when the key is on. And that's going to go to the middle positive post also. We'll get this coil kind of popped in where it needs to be, and then we'll hook up the plug wires. And we'll get this tank kind of put back where it should be. And make sure you cut all your zip ties at a nice sharp angle for the next guy. This ignition module has all these switches on it, and there's a little chart on the side of it that shows you what each one does. We're going to use this to set our rev limiter and our timing advance curve. So this is for the vacuum switch that we're not using. We'll just put switch 1 off so it won't use it. Switch 2 and 3 will set your advanced curve for the timing. We're going to use curve 4. If you look up the chart online, curve 4 is going to have the least amount of timing advance, which is what we want. The rev limiter is 4 and 5. We want to set it low to begin with, so we have both switch 4 and 5 off for a 5500 rev limiter, and then we want to use single fire, so we have switch 6 set to on for single fire. All right, we'll see if this thing will fire up now. too long and sophisticated in here. You know there's only one thing left to test.